What's the likelihood of further action, given that there's been a lot of criticism that this initial action hasn't really achieved the sort of shock and awe that perhaps some were expecting?
I've heard that there'll be further sanctions on Russia over its support to the Assad regime. I don't think there'll be initially further military strikes, but in the long term there could be tensions with Iran over if Trump refuses to recertify the Iranian nuclear deal next month. And the attacks also send a signal further afield to even North Korea. So I think that tensions will remain high in the region.
What about the legality of the action?
Well, it's been Russia has come out criticizing it, Syria, Iraq and Bolivia on the UN Security Council. I think most international lawyers view this as an unlawful reprisal. The US government hasn't really advanced a legal argument. The British government has. They've justified the strikes on this notion of humanitarian intervention. But the Security Council, most states didn't really go out to criticize the action by France, Britain and the US. So that appears to indicate perhaps a shift in global opinion on these strikes.
Andrew, I wanted to get your views on, the market's really been quite sanguine about the impact of this action and any sort of fallout. Do you think there's some mispricing going on, or do you think the sort of sense of caution is warranted?
Well, it makes a lot of sense that if somebody tells you, I'm going to bomb your house in a week's time and I'm going to hit the living room, the garage, but not the first floor, that it's going to have zero impact on Assad. Okay, it's going to have zero impact on the Russians. And of course, for the markets, it was a huge yawn, particularly, of course, that the Russians came out and says they have really not affected us. Also, it makes my hair fall off with the idea that they have already rocketed Assad. Trump did bomb Assad last April over gas. Clearly, it didn't make any difference whatsoever. He gassed them again. And I think he's going to gas them again and again and again. And the idea that financial sanctions in Russia is going to make any impact. Look, we have been having sanctions on Russia for nearly 3 years, and it hasn't stopped them from doing whatever they're doing. It's huge hypocrisy, okay, that it is okay for Assad to shred his people to pieces, to drill holes in them, blast them to pieces, but it's not okay to asphyxiate them. I mean, the kind of choices are really revolting. I'm not for one moment supporting Assad, but equally when I look at the excuses offered here and the impact, of course, on that, which is zero, okay, just more people just get killed.
Andrew, at the end of the day, are you saying there doesn't seem to be, and you're not saying there doesn't seem to be a Syria policy?
Absolutely,
I mean,
zero.
At least from the Western allies.
Particularly from the United States. Also, the idea is that, as I keep emphasizing, I have to be very careful here, because I'm not saying it's perfectly okay to asphyxiate anybody, but apparently it's perfectly okay to drill holes in them and we don't bomb them. But if they asphyxiate them, that's very different.
That's the so-called red line, I suppose.
Yeah, whatever that means, okay. And of course, it has no effect. They carry on doing it.